Call this meeting of the Salem Housing Authority for March 10th to order. If the recorder would please call the roll.
Commissioner Tessler is absent. Commissioner Nanke?
Here.
Commissioner Clausen?
Here.
Commissioner Dickey is absent. Commissioner Thomas is absent. Commissioner Benars?
Here.
Commissioner Clem?
Here.
Commissioner Hine? Absent. And Chair Bennett?
Here. Just so everyone notes, our three counselors are attending a national conference in the nation's capital. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to address the Housing Authority? All righty. Commissioner Nanke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the consent calendar with Resolution 3.2B pulled by Member Clausen.
Okay.
Second.
Great. We have information reports under our consent calendar.
We need a vote.
Want one of that first? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll go to the other part of the consent calendar, information reports. Mr. Welch?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out a couple areas of the program management report. That information's always in there. I don't always verbalize it for the general public, so I wanted to do that today. We track our population that we serve, ongoing, and I just wanted to mention that right now we're serving 9,350 people in the Salem area, in the city of Salem. We are housing them in using the rental voucher program, Section 8 program. About 3,200 have vouchers. 646 housing units the Salem Housing Authority owns. So on any given day, we're serving close to 10,000 people, which, if you divide that into the population of Salem, is plus or minus 4% of the population. So we have a lot of work to do with a lot of clients and a substantial amount of affordable housing, and we serve a large population as well. So.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Very good. Thank you. And special orders of business, we will take up 3.2B. Commissioner Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Welch and I had a good conversation earlier today, and
Make a motion first.
I move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Second by Bernards. Okay.
Thank you. As discussion on it, I just did want to ask the one question of Mr. Welch that we talked about earlier, which was in the report, basically just really condensing down to what is our total loan going to be on value of the property of specifically the Robert Lindsay Tower after construction is complete?
Sure. That's a really easy answer. Let me just give a small bit of context if I can. I mentioned in the staff report that the original appraisal for Robert Lindsay Tower came in at $1.2 million. We went back to the lender and said, we think it's higher than that. And I represented in the staff report that we thought it would be at 1.9 million, and that is where the appraiser has ended up. So when you look at the executive summary that we provided, the hypothetical stabilized value as if it's renovated is about $4.98 million. The total construction plus the value of acquiring the property because, we're selling it to another partnership. That's right about 4.9 million as well. So they're very close. The value of the property after it's renovated and the cost of renovating.
Okay, that was the big thing I wanted to make sure, because I was looking at the numbers and the 1.9 million stuck in my head of the total value, and I was like, well, man, we're spending $3 million renovating it, so. So anyway, it sounds like we're going to be pretty close to what we owe versus what we're putting into it, so I appreciate that. And it's also good to note that the value is restricted because of the rent restrictions. And anyway, it's a great property for us. I'm glad we have it, and glad we're moving forward with the renovation. It needs it.
Can you give just a short version of what the renovation is going to include at Robert Lindsay?
You bet. Be happy to. We're pretty much right on track with what the commission wanted us to do at the onset. We're increasing the heating and air conditioning and the systems work in all the units, so new heating, new air conditioning. We're looking to seismically shore up the building, though it's in really good shape for the construction methodology. It doesn't have a lot of seismic work that you can really do, right? But we're doing all we can. We're also going to ensure that we have energy efficiencies for our tenants as we transition to a 20-year HUD contract as a part of the rental assistance demonstration. We're going to have individual meters for our residents, which allows them to control their environment as opposed to paying a portion of what everybody else is using. So there's some self-determination there. And there's a series of code-related and issues such as we're coming up to full compliance with American Disabilities Act with Section 504. We're creating 7 more adaptable units for our seniors who clearly could use greater flexibility in their units. There is some very interesting aspects of the heating and cooling, and the construction methodology is quite complex. There are upgrades to the units. There are upgrades to the common areas, and it's a comprehensive renovation.
These are 62 plus,
I'm sorry, 62 units.
or 62 age, I'm thinking of the age.
Yes,
Okay.
they are 62 plus, that's correct.
And will they be dislocated during construction?
Excuse me, sir?
Will they be dislocated during
There
construction?
will be some temporary relocation. We're working, staff members working with them. Some folks will be going to stay with residents. Others will be in a couple different extended stay facilities where obviously this agency, Housing Authority, has the obligation to temporarily relocate and pay for that temporary relocation. We don't expect it's going to be more than 3 weeks, and which may be plenty for some folks, but temporary and as short as we can make it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. We have no further business. The Housing Authority is adjourned.
All right. Welcome, everyone. And I welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency for the City of Salem for March 10, 2014. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Bennett?
Here.
Board Member Tesler is absent. Board Member Nanki? Here. Board Member Clausen?
Here.
Board Member Dickey is absent. Board Member Thomas is absent. Board Member Benars?
Here.
Board Member Clausen, or Clem, pardon me?
Here.
And Chair Peterson.
Here, thank you. All right, we have no reports of boards, commissions, or committees this evening. Is there anyone signed up for public comment? No one signed up for that. Was there anyone here this evening that wanted to offer public comment for the agency? All right, we'll move then ahead into the consent calendar. Member Bennett, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the consent calendar.
It's been moved by Member Bennett and seconded by Member Nanke to move the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We have no information reports this evening, or special orders of business, or unfinished business, and no public hearings, and no new business. We are adjourned. All right, we will now open the City Council meeting for this evening, which is Monday, March 10, 2014. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Bennett?
Here.
Councilor Tessler is absent. Councilor Nanke?
Here.
Councilor Clausen?
Here.
Councilor Dickey is absent. Councilor Thomas is absent. Councilor Benars?
Here.
Councilor Clem? And Mayor Peterson.
Here. Thank you very much. Councilor Bennett, do you have a motion regarding additions and deletions to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move additions, deletions, and revisions to the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Benars to move the additions, deletions, and revisions to the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And we have comment time for council and city manager. Do any councilors have comment this evening? Councilor Nanke.
Or Counselor Bragg.
Nanke, yes, okay.
Yeah, it was interesting, just in line with our agenda tonight. An article in the week, end of last week, regarding the internet and why is the American internet so slow. A study by Ookla Speed Test ranks the U.S. at 31st in the world in terms of average download speeds. The leaders are Hong Kong at 72 megabits per second and Singapore at 58.84. And America, we average 20.77 and fall behind countries like Estonia, Hungary, Slovakia, and Uruguay. Upload speeds are even worse. Globally, we rank 42nd at 6.3 megabits per second, behind Belarus, Slovenia, and other countries you only hear mentioned on Jeopardy. So, how did we fall behind? The article suggests that it's because of the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which was meant to foster competition, but instead allowed cable companies and telecoms to simply divide markets and merge their way to monopolies. And then forego a lot of the infrastructure investment, which would essentially convert up to fiber. And as they move on through this, it speaks of where there is competition happening with Google Fiber and what have you. There's a lot of activity that takes place then to meet that competition that's no longer apparent in that market. And then there's a really interesting statement. The idea of a regulated market being more conducive to competition may be alien to free market ideologues, but telecoms and internet is a real-world example of deregulation leading to monopolization instead of competition in lots of markets. So we get John Cassidy from the New Yorker saying that we need to actually have a new policy similar to what South Korea's done, where it was actually giving more leeway to the new folks into the market, because there are significant barriers to entry based on infrastructure that's already in place and whether or not it's usable by by others coming in to promote that competition. But then they go on to say that they're skeptical that anything will actually happen because the new head of the Federal Communications Commission is a former lobbyist for two sets of vested interests, the cell phone operators and the cable companies. So I figured I would share that in light of our wireless communications layer.
Thank you very much. Are there other comments from councilors? Do we have a comment from the city manager?
Not tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move along, and we have a time for public comment, and I believe we do have some people signed up for public comment. This is for comment on agenda items, and the first person on the list is Laura Meisner, and following her will be Deborah West.
Good evening. Thank
Good
you,
evening,
Madam Mayor
welcome.
And city councilors. My name is Laura Meisner. I'm the president of Coalition Advocating for Animals. Thank you. And it's just my voice carries, so I'm not sure how this is coming through. And I just have a few comments that I would like to make. First of all, I want to thank Councilmember Chuck Bennett for his efforts and willingness to work on the issue of banning the sales of animals on public property in Salem. Thank you very much, Chuck. And I hope that everybody's had a chance to see the letter that was sent to you all from Scott Beckstead with the Humane Society of the United States. Anyway, I would first like to read to you a ban that the city of San Antonio has, which they instituted, that I feel is very succinct and really hits all the salient points. And their ordinance reads, "No live animal shall be sold, traded, bartered, leased, rented, given away, or displayed for a commercial purpose on any roadside, public right-of-way, commercial parking lot, public property, or any flea market or festival." And I would really like to see Salem adopt something similar to that. And the reasons that we are interested in seeing this ordinance instituted here in Salem are rather simple and straightforward. Allowing people to sell animals, especially dogs, on public property enables backyard breeders and puppy mills to succeed, which we don't want people to see, and they don't want people to see their operation in the poor conditions in which the animals are bred. Secondly, selling puppies on sidewalks spreads disease and is dangerous to both the puppies as well as the people who come in contact with them. Parvo is a killer disease and is particularly lethal to puppies. Animal shelters fear it and have disinfection protocols to guard against it. We can track it into our home, on our clothing and shoes, and bring it to our pets. We have talked to the Walmart managers, and they don't want people selling or giving away animals in front of their stores. But when they call the police, there's nothing that the police can do, as there's no ordinance against this on public property. Allowing this practice also undermines the mission and work of rescues and shelters, as well as stores like Petco and PetSmart that are working hard to promote adoption. So we urge the city to come up with a thorough ordinance so that puppies aren't sold and kittens aren't given away to whoever walks by. We are the state capital. We need to be a better caretaker of our community and institute an ordinance offering a more humane environment for animals in Salem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Meisner? All right, thank you for coming down. Deborah West, followed by Mike Newman.
Hi, I'm in support of this ban, and thank you, Mr. Bennett. As a longtime animal advocate in the community and a very active volunteer, I think it's really important that Salem, as the capital of Oregon, set the standard and be an example for communities throughout Oregon and across the country that we care about our companion pets. So thank you, and I hope you'll consider this. I think it'll be a wonderful way to show that Salem is a good city to live in. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. West? All right, Mike Newman, followed by Rhonda Bernard.
Hello. First of all, I didn't realize when I put my name on that piece of paper that I'd be asked to speak, so you're not really asking me to, but I didn't realize. I'll just say that I'm a 3-year volunteer with an organization called Fences for Fido. And for those of you that have heard of it, you know what we do. We build fences for dogs that are on chains, and that's my involvement and how I know the two ladies that have spoke before me. Other than that, I totally support everything they've said and what they're talking about. And finally, the next name on your list, you will not get her to stand here to say anything. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Newman? Thank you very much. Rhonda Bernard, followed by Jessica Hopkins. Rhonda, you are going to decline. Okay, I just want to be sure. Jessica Hopkins, and she will be followed by Melinda Rossau.
Hi, I am just a private citizen. This is the first city council meeting I've ever been to. I heard about this issue on Facebook, and that's what got me here. I have been really dismayed to see these people selling puppies in front of Walmart in all extremes of weather, very hot, very cold. And also, I think that we really need to do anything we can to discourage backyard breeders. Way too many dogs and cats are put to sleep every year. So that's all I've got.
Okay, any questions for her? All right, thank you. Melinda Rossau, followed by Barbara Fuller. I think that says. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Melinda Rosso. I live right here in your community, and I'm a volunteer rescuer. And that means, like many others in our community, I hold a full-time job, and when I'm not working, I'm rescuing. So I'm asking to please consider this ban, because the impulse buys that are taking place, or the giveaways that are taking place on sidewalks and at Walmart and different places in our community, those are my rescues of tomorrow. So for those of us that are exhausting ourselves in the community trying to make a difference, we get called. My rescue partner gets probably 10 calls a day, and she does that as a volunteer. She spends all her time running all over this community trying to help abandoned dogs, cats, injured birds. It doesn't matter, but they're just like a very, very small army. You see a few people here tonight, and we're not a big army of people, but we're just really, really care about what's happening to animals and people, because behind every animal story is usually a person's story behind it. So please consider that. Thank you so much.
All right, and I'm sorry, I failed to ask you to either state your address or your ward for the record.
I could state my address.
Okay.
1925 18th Street Northeast.
Thank you.
Salem, 97301.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Good. And Barbara Fuller, followed by Sharon Miller.
I was promised I wasn't going to have to speak, so I didn't really come prepared.
Oh, all right. And if you'll hold the microphone near your mouth.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I had written a letter to Commissioner Bennett. Thank you for your direct response. I really appreciate that. I really do urge you to consider this ban. My parents, my father and my grandfather were both veterinarians. They abhorred this kind of a practice during their time. These were the animals that they would get coming into their offices and their clinics that were sick and ill and evidently and eventually abandoned. Please do not allow this to continue happening in Salem. This is a bad practice for Salem, for our children, and for our animal friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharon Miller, followed by Patty Tipton.
I also did not want to speak or didn't think I would speak, but I'm here to lend my support to the ban. And I'm in Ward 1, Chuck Bennett's ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patty Tipton, followed by Brenda Mark.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Hi, council members. My name is Patty Tipton. I'm here in support of the band, and I live at 3240 Hamel Street Northeast, Salem, 97301. And I have volunteered and supported this kind of group of people for over 10 years. And I've had taken in foster cats, and I've tended to them when they were sick, and I've taken care of animals a long time. And I have seen the conditions of these animals in cages and in boxes. I also heard the horror stories about finding them in shopping carts just left there. And I would like to see this changed. These animals have little or no water, food. They have no shelter when they're out in the open that way, no heat in the wintertime. And these people really don't care about these animals, because if they really did, they would not have done that. So please support this on account of the animals and the people that really do care about their animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Tipton? Thanks for coming down. Brenda Mark?
My name is Brenda Martin, and I disagree. I know that this selling them at Walmart has been brought up in the paper and everything else. I personally know that man. He takes better care of those animals than a lot of people. He loves them. They're his babies. And I bought two different pups from different litters. And when he's out there, I've been there. He makes sure they have water. He makes sure that they have food, that they have shelter. Maybe some people don't, but he does. And it kind of aggravates me for people to act like he doesn't care about his animals. Have any of you been to his house, seen his animals? He's excellent care of them. So it kind of makes me mad to have people put him down because he does love his animals, you know, and he does not run a backyard breeding. So I said what I had to say. That's the way it is.
Thank you. And could you please, for the record, state your ward number or your address?
524 North 12th Street, Gnomesville.
Thank you. All right, I didn't see anyone else signed up. Were there others who wanted to speak? Yes, would you please come to the microphone and introduce yourself and give us your address or your ward number, please? I guess I better get that. Okay.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Misty Dawn Martin,
And you'll need to speak down into the microphone or pull it up. There you are.
Okay. And with the man that sells his puppies at Walmart, I help him with it. I go to his house and make sure those puppies are well fed. I actually fed one on a bottle for 3 weeks. He takes very good care of his dogs. I've never seen anything wrong with him or his dogs. And I know some people don't take care of their dogs, and yes, I understand there is puppy mills and people that don't take care of their dogs, but it kind of puts a bad name on all of us that does breed dogs and want to have them a good home. We're out there to sell them to people that really want to take care of them, and I drill the people that buy my dogs and make sure they take very good care of them and make sure that they are going to very good homes. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thanks for coming down. Appreciate your testimony. All right, yes. Oh, yes, did you want to testify? Please.
Hi, I'm Susan Carey, and I want to testify on behalf of the band. And I want to speak from firsthand experience because I do work at the Willamette Humane Society. I want to I want to confirm that I agree with almost all of the things that people have said that are speaking on behalf of the band. But one thing I haven't heard is about how rehoming a pet in this manner is not in the best interest of the animal. I have personally witnessed minors standing in front of these stores with boxes of kittens, handing them off to other minors. And that just tears my heart out because I don't know what's happening to those animals. I was driving down North Lancaster recently, and I saw a young family, 2 young children, and a man and a wife with puppies, holding them above their heads out on the thoroughfare of North Lancaster, trying to get the attention of people to show them that they had puppies for sale. So I circled around and came back around to speak with them, to try to encourage them that we would do a better job of rehoming those animals for them, and at the very least, that maybe they would consider handing out our information about spaying or neutering those dogs so that they didn't contribute to the pet overpopulation, but they didn't have any part of any of it. So I just wanted to say that think about the best interest of the animal and think about the best interest of the community, because I think that we all agree that distribution of these animals in this manner is not in the best interest of our community. And that's all.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Carey? No, I'm sorry. I mean from counselors.
Oh.
Yes, sorry. All right. Any questions by counselors? Apparently not. All right. Ms. Carey, thanks for coming down. We appreciate your testimony, appreciate the work you're doing at the Humane Society as well. And would you like to testify? And you may use the microphone that's just there at that corner.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth Ensminger, and I live at 4779 Future Drive Northeast here in Salem. I would like to speak on behalf of the ban. As most people know that keep up with things, the humane societies in this country, not just in our city, are overrun. I read an article from the National Humane Society that was sent to me via email. I'm on their mailing list, that said something about there are so many extra pets in the world that every person would have to have 40,000 to give them all a home. That's just perspective. The fact is, whether you're backyard breeding or you're licensed, and not to be cruel, but if you're not licensed, you are backyard breeding, and it's really for a reason. There's a lot of inbred animals out there that come out deformed, sick, and a good life for them is being able to scoot across the floor in their urine and their feces because they can't walk from deformities. These are the issues we're dealing with in the world of rescue, and the people that are out there are just overrun. And so by allowing people to sell these pets that they're breeding, and they may or may not love them. Some of them I know love them. This gentleman I don't know, I can't speak for, but I know some people really love their animals. However, we don't need any more breeding going on. I know there are people here that work hard to try and get pets spayed and neutered just in this community alone. And it kind of feels like we don't really make headway, because every time we drive down Lancaster, there's a family out there with puppies. I myself have seen that very same thing many times. A couple months ago, I drove down Lancaster and saw not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 different vehicles sitting in a parking lot lined up, and every one of them had pins out on the asphalt with puppies. Every single one of them. We can't keep up. It's as simple as that. We cannot keep up. A group of us in this room spent over a month trying to trap a stray dog that had been, we believe, dumped. I can't confirm that for sure, but nonetheless a stray. Was living on 22. It took us over a month to finally get him. This is a daily occurrence. And like somebody else mentioned, I believe I know who she's speaking of, but another lady that literally runs around her job all day and night is rescuing. There aren't enough of us, and there's too many out there. So your help in lessening that would be greatly appreciated.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions from counselors? Counselor Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your testimony. I was just curious. I didn't realize the pet breeder can be licensed. How does a licensed pet breeder typically
Well, and I'm actually kind of running through my brain if that's the correct terminology. I don't know that they're licensed per se, but people that are papered and I guess approved, and basically the people that run legitimate breeding organizations can give you specific lineage for all of their dogs. They abide by guidelines in terms of dogs not being bred more than a certain number of times, never within
a certain strain of lineage within that breed, that family for that dog. And then also not past certain ages. You'll see dogs that are literally bred for years, and when they can't breed anymore, they're just dumped. You also see dogs that are bred when they're too young to be bred. They're being bred before they even hit a year old and continuing to be so. Recently saw a video that kind of breaks my heart about a mama dog. She's completely gray. Guarantee you, just looking at her pictures, she should not be having puppies. And the chances of those puppies being healthy, just based on her age, it's just like people. You end up having problems the older the dog gets, the more they've been bred. It's not good for humans to stay pregnant. And the fact is that for a lot of these dogs, they're constantly in that state. So,
Thank
sorry,
you.
long answer.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
All right. Other questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to the consent calendar. And Councillor Bennett, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Benars to move the consent calendar. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will now have public hearings, and the first item is 4A. And do we have a staff presentation?
A staff presentation on this one, yes. Mr. Dannon is going to do the staff presentation.
Oh, good. All right. Thank you. Welcome. Oh, all right. The city recorder will first read the announcement of the public hearing. Thank you.
The City Council, as the local contract review board for the City of Salem, will now hold a public hearing for the purpose of taking testimony on the city's draft findings for an exemption from the competitive bidding requirements regarding the P25 compliant 800 megahertz trunked radio system project.
Thank you, and welcome, Clint.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and City Councilors, Alan Dannon with Public Works Engineering. And I'm here tonight with a recommendation to adopt the resolution that's before you and enter the staff report into the record. I'd just like to provide a brief summary, if I could, and then be available for any questions that you might have. The project to provide an 800 megahertz new radio system has been before council on several occasions in the past, including most recently at our last council meeting on February 24th with an informational staff report. The project involves a lot of elements, but it boils down to providing a new common radio system for the city emergency providers, so fire, public works, and police, along with Kaiser Police and Salem Kaiser Transit. What that project does is allows us to replace equipment that's now at the end of its useful life, no longer supported by the manufacturer, and costs to operate and maintain that equipment are increasing, and it's getting more and more difficult to do that. It also allows us to meet standards for interoperable radio systems so that in a large-scale emergency we can be sure to communicate with other agencies that we might give or receive mutual aid to. And then finally, it addresses coverage and signal quality issues that we've been experiencing since migrating to a narrower bandwidth as required by federal regulations for our radio system. The method that we've proposed for delivery is outlined in the staff report, and it boils down to a multi-phase delivery approach of specific packages of equipment and services. And the reason we've proposed that is really to give us maximum control of the outcome and make sure that we focus responsibility for performance on the specific suppliers where it's most appropriate, ensuring to get the most reliable system that we can. So for 3 of those proposed packages, there's a small element of the work that would be done by trades to install the equipment that under our purchasing rules would qualify as public improvements. And that would normally require us to go through a competitive bid process per our rules. In this case, that's kind of like the tail wagging the dog a little bit because those percentages of the work, less than 5%, are so small. And we really want to make sure that we get good performance and quality with this system. So for a system like this, we want to be sure that we can consider other factors like past performance, experience, and quality of products. And that's why we've come forward with this resolution and the findings that are attached. The council, as the contract review board, can adopt those findings and allow us to proceed tonight. So those findings need to address that favoritism is not encouraged and competition is not diminished. And then secondly, that there's a substantial cost savings to the city. So regarding the first two, we'll go through a formal competitive request for proposal process. That will include price as one of the factors that we evaluate, but also the others that I mentioned. The public improvement element of the work is small, but it still benefits the proposers to competitively look for contractors that provide quality work at the best possible price. Secondly, regardless of the method we use, we're likely to have the same number of proposers. The radio system industry has known players, and they'll probably propose regardless of the method we use, so competition wouldn't be diminished that way. Regarding cost savings, the method that we've proposed we think will minimize the likelihood of a protest and cause delays or costs that might arise from having to re-advertise. We know of at least one case in California where a protest over this public improvement type work has arisen, so there's definitely a precedent for that. The risk of a poorly qualified bidder is lessened by going through this process, and the costs that come from delay or poor performance that we might have to work to correct. And then finally, the responsibility for any defects in the installation work by the trades would fall with the supplier, and they would have to correct that at their own cost instead of the city having to step in and work to make rectifications there. So those are the findings to find one that, favoritism is not encouraged, competition is not diminished, and that there'll be substantial cost savings to the city. With approval tonight, we'll begin with the RFP process for the packages with this exemption, and then we have a work session planned with council to provide a status update later in April. I'll be glad to take any questions when the time comes.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from councilors? Councilor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize for not sending this question before this meeting, but I want to make sure, Alan, that the consultant who advised the city to do it this way, or with this system, this 800 megahertz system, are they allowed to bid on the contract as well? Is the consultant allowed to bid?
No, these would be bids for actual supplying the equipment and the services that support that, like training and implementation type services. It wouldn't be for the actual project management or engineering of the site or anything like that.
Okay, I just want to make sure if we keep this as competitive as possible, I don't want to find out that the consultant also is bidding on any of that.
No,
So,
no,
okay,
sir.
it's on the record.
Any other questions? Councilor Clausen.
I just wanted to see if anybody had signed up before we got
We
too far.
have no one signed up.
Okay, thanks. I didn't.
All right. Other questions by councilors? All right, and we do not have anyone signed up for public hearing. Was there anyone who had come this evening to speak to this issue? All right, Councilor Bennett?
Thank you, Madam
You have a
Mayor.
motion?
Yes, I move the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Benars to move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? Councilor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm fully supportive of this. We don't need a system that has been portrayed across the states and the federal government as well, that comes out sorely lacking compared to what the expectation was at the onset, and I think this will help us deviate from that path. So I'm 100% in favor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Our next item is 4B. Would the recorder please introduce this public hearing?
The City Council will now hold a public hearing for the purpose of considering approval of Housing Authority of City of Salem tax-exempt bond issuance for Robert Lindsay Tower and Parkway East Apartments.
Thank you, and we have a staff presentation, don't we? Hello.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Council members, Andy Welch, Salem Housing Authority Housing Administrator. My pleasure to be here this evening. I'm in a little bit of a different role tonight. I'm facilitating some information for you on the public hearing. As you know, in the staff report, the Housing Authority is proposing to issue $8.6 million of tax-exempt bonds to fund renovations of the Robert Lindsay Tower and Parkway East Apartments. Before the Housing Authority can issue tax-exempt bonds, the authority must first undertake a process set forth by federal law. Federal law provides for public input and a public hearing, and the Housing Authority issuance of tax-exempt bond must be approved by the council or mayor. Specifically, the rules require publication of a notice of public hearing for at least 2 weeks before the hearing. The notice needs to describe the project, its location, and the amount of private activity bonds, tax-exempt bonds, that will be issued. The Housing Authority of the City of Salem provided this 14-day notice to the general public in the Statesman's Journal on February 24th, 2014. In the 14-day notice, I was identified as the appropriate party to receive any written comments during that 14-day period. For the record, I did not receive any public comments during this 14-day notice. This published notice is included as a part of your staff report. This is, at this point, the extent of my involvement. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. And did we have anyone signed up for testimony? I don't see anyone signed up for this. We'll proceed to questions from counselors. Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, all right, then we close the public hearing. And we'll have a motion. Counselor Nanke, would you like to?
I would love to make a motion.
Thank you.
And that motion would be staff recommendation on
All right.
4B. I should have
Thank
talked
you.
slower. But I'm slow enough.
Slow enough, that's fine. All right, the motion on the floor is to move staff recommendation on item 4B. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the staff recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Our third item for public hearing this evening is item 4C with the, no, and the recorder is shaking her head no, she's not going to introduce it. And so I'm going to go right ahead and ask for staff presentation. Is there staff presentation on this item? No. No? All right. Then we'll have a motion. No, wait a minute. We do have a staff presentation. Thank you. Oh, no, we don't have a staff presentation. We sometimes rehearse these, sometimes we don't. Councillor Clem, I see your hand in the air.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. We probably should have rehearsed it, but I'd like to make a motion to delay this reading and amendment of the wireless cell phone tower ordinance until full council can deliberate on it as much as are attending on March 24, 2014.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Clem and seconded by Councillor Bennett to delay the discussion and the hearing on this until March 24, did you say? Yes, March 24 meeting. Is there discussion to that motion? Yes, Councillor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Fellow councilors and members of the public, I'd like to delay our amendments to the ordinance so that we can further consider other amendments to do a couple of things. Number one, I totally support the staff recommendation moving the setback from 30 feet to 100 feet. So I would intend that that part of the ordinance will still move forward. I would further submit, and you should have received a copy of my proposed motion, to require that third-party review is mandatory for any cell phone towers being constructed in a residential area. And so on March 24th, I'm asking that you support this motion so that the full council can consider that additional requirement, that if a wireless communication application comes in for a cell phone tower, that that it would be mandatory that a third-party review would happen anytime it's proposed for a residential area. The reason, and I'll argue it on March 24th, but this additional requirement is really in response to the likelihood that many of those applications would be left up to staff to decide whether or not this third-party review would be needed. And quite frankly, this is technical federal communications, wireless data information, and I'm not sure I'd want to be the staff person who invented the requirement to have the third-party review or not. I don't think it's fair to staff, and I don't think it bodes well in terms of certainty for the residents and or for the wireless communications company. So I'd like the chance for the full council present at March 24th meeting to not only consider moving the setback from 30 feet to 100 feet, but then also to require third-party review mandatory in all applications for towers in residential areas. So please take a look at my motion and support so that the full council can look at this in a couple of weeks.
All right, thank you very much. Is there further discussion? Councillor Bednarz.
I just wanted to clarify, the third-party review, exactly what is it you're trying to have them do in that review?
Let me
Yes, Councillor Clem.
Let me pull that up here real quick. The third-party review is already in our ordinance, or in this proposed ordinance. What it says is, and correct me, staff, if I'm wrong here, but that in fact it may be required. The bottom line is that anytime somebody's putting a cell phone tower up in Salem's residential areas, we don't have on staff, because staff have stated, they don't have the technical information to understand capacity or need by the residents or for the cell phone tower company. So I'm after that normal data that we've already agreed that we would want from them, and that would be areas that far beyond our expertise in terms of data to suggest what the coverage is and what the capacity is. And so beyond that, I think the third-party review allows an uninterested or a disinterested party to comment on whether or not capacity and coverage need to be considered before we go putting a cell phone tower in a residential area.
Okay. All right, further.
If I could, my motion intends, pulling it up here, that it would be to review and evaluate evidence submitted as part of the application. So again, I can't give you the details, but it would be for a new support tower within 300 feet of a residential zone, an adjustment not to exceed the maximum height of a tower within 300 feet, or an adjustment to reduce the minimum setback of a support tower from a property zone residential. So those are the three delineations. But again, I'd like all of us to be here when we consider this new ordinance.
Yes.
Just to clarify, Councilor Clem, you're going to make that motion on the 24th of...
I will.
Okay.
Just want to get it out there.
The motion on the table right now is just to continue the deliberations.
Just to continue until March 24th.
All right, any further discussion? We'll call for the question. The motion on the floor made by Councilor Clem and seconded by Councilor Bednarz, right?
Bennett.
I'm sorry, by Councilor Bennett. And that is to delay the public hearing until March 24th. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have no special orders of business nor any unfinished business. Information reports were in your agenda packet. Were there any questions or discussions regarding information reports? Okay, we have no first readings of ordinances, but we have a second reading. Would the city clerk please introduce that or take the roll?
Yes. Ordinance Bill Number 314 relating to the Salem Downtown Economic Improvement District, amending SRC 44015. And Councilor Clausen,
Aye.
Councilor Dickey.
You need to start over.
Oh,
I'm sorry, you need to start over.
pardon me.
It's all right.
Okay.
You have to start counting.
Ah, gotcha. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Councilor Nanki.
Aye.
Councilor Clausen.
Aye.
Councilor Dickey is absent. Councilor Thomas is absent. Councilor Benars.
Aye.
Councilor Clem.
Aye.
Councilor Bennett.
Aye.
Councilor Tessler is absent, and Mayor Peterson.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. And has anyone signed up for public comment tonight? I don't see anyone on the list. Was there anyone here who did want to offer comment during the public comment? All right. We'll move on to new business. On the additions and deletions list, you see a motion for mayor's item. And this motion is a request to authorize travel to participate in Oregon Japan Week by both myself and Deputy City Manager Casey Duncan. And I draw your attention to the memo that's attached to the additions page, and remind you that in years past we've had, I believe, a very strong and fruitful relationship with several businesses here in Salem, in particular with IMAX, with Yamasa, and with Sanyo Solar, which is now Panasonic. And a large part of those relationships is based upon our time that we're able to spend with the company at the company headquarters in Japan, and the time that we spend with their key principals and managers and staff there, learning more about the companies and further cementing those relationships. We also will be visiting with our sister city, Calgoy, and visiting dignitaries there, and again continuing to strengthen that relationship, as well as wanting to visit with the faculty and students at TIU, the Tokyo International University, which is the sister city, or excuse me, the sister school for Tokyo International University in America, which is here affiliated with Willamette University. So we will have a full agenda in the time that we will also be there with Business Oregon, and with be able to participate in seminars and receptions for businesses in Japan interested in doing business in Oregon, and particularly we will be there to talk to them about doing business in Salem. In addition to that, I've been invited to visit the city of Iyo, Japan, a city that has provided a number of years teenagers visiting Salem as a cultural exchange, and we're very fortunate that Mr. Chuck Ito, who is one of the Rotarians who has facilitated that relationship and those visits, has offered to accompany me to Iyo at his own expense, and he and his wife, actually at their own expense, will be there to translate and to offer to provide introductions, as they are very familiar with the delegates there in Iyo. And again, it's really an important cultural exchange, an important opportunity to develop and further strengthen the relationships that we have with the schools there that participate in the cultural exchange. So my motion is to authorize both the Deputy City Manager, Casey Duncan, and myself to participate in these travels to Japan.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by me and seconded by Councilor Clem. Is there any discussion or any questions? Councilor Clausen.
I'm fully in support of this, Madam Mayor, and I really hope that, it's a small investment on the potential of a good relationship, helping somebody to think about Salem in the future for an expansion or whatever. I think this is great. I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad that it sounds like Casey Duncan will be going, though.
Yes.
And glad to see that we have a presence there, and I hope that something comes of it.
Excellent, thank you. I appreciate that. I should add that in EO, I will also be visiting several food processing facilities, which is a direct tie to what we do here in Salem with our agricultural production. So there's the economic development relationship potential there, as well as the cultural exchange with the students. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and comment. Are there further comments or questions? All right, then all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And we have a second motion, a counselor's item from Counselor Bennett.
Yes,
Would you like
Madam
to
Mayor.
introduce that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move to direct staff to research methods to ban the sale of animals in the public right-of-way and report back with options for the City Council's consideration.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Counselor Bennett and seconded by Counselor Benars. I'm sorry, Counselor Clem, to move the counselor's recommendation. I do have a question. Would you like to speak to your motion first, and then I have a question?
Okay.
Okay.
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, you heard the testimony. That is a portion of what I've been hearing about this and seeing myself about this practice. I think it's one that we owe it to ourselves to take up, have a serious public hearing on an ordinance, and have a full discussion. I happen to know right now I'm in favor of it. I think it's time we come to grips with what's becoming an extending problem. I was really surprised to hear about 4 sales going on along Lancaster Drive. I mean, this is, I got a note from Alan Scott, a guy we hear from regularly, about 1, possibly 2 puppy mills in his neighborhood, which is close to me, to where I live. This is one of those issues we don't talk a lot about. It's so uncomfortable. It is so, at times, so disturbing that it's the kind of thing that if we don't just jump right in with both feet, hear what the public has to say, look at the reality of the practices surrounding this kind of animal sale, and hear what the kind of the best practices look like, because there really are best practices in dealing with animals for rehoming. And I think this is just a real chance for us to educate ourselves, the public, and I think really do some good for some of our fellow creatures and our neighbors. So I hope you'll join me in this, but between now and then, I need to have something for you to talk about specifically, and that's what the motion is tonight.
Fine, thank you. Counselor Benars?
Counselor Bennett, I just wanted to get a little clarity. This is in sale of animals in the public right-of-way. This isn't sale of animals that would be on private property.
That's what it says
intent.
now. I think, yeah, that's the ordinance I'm looking for. Although I heard testimony tonight that might indicate other counselors may want to look at this more broadly.
Well, admission is that I have 4 cats and 2 dogs that live under the roof, and most of those are...
And 3 chickens,
And
right?
3 chickens as
Yeah.
well, but most of those animals were rescue animals, and they're all spayed or neutered.
Good, all right. I have one question, I guess it would be of staff. Several people testified this evening about the incidents, particularly along Lancaster. I believe some portions of Lancaster are within the city and some are within the county. And maybe as part of the work that staff might, or report that staff might bring to us, might be just which areas are city and which are county, and then if there's some collaborative answer to the problem, if the problem is also occurring along Lancaster in the county, maybe we should look to see what the county ordinances might be, and if we can be compatible. There's always a ease in enforcing those rules. I believe there was another hand over here. Counselor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would just potentially caution about providing a map that shows every place that's not inside of the city of Salem because of unintended consequences. That being said, similar to unintended consequences, we talked about, there was one specific case that people had been communicating with council, and I don't want to be disparaging against anyone out there right now, and I would actually like to know more on the situation that's taking place through that one individual that's selling at that location. I hope we can actually find some more information on what other people are doing, and there may be, getting back to specific to pets versus potentially barring any other commercial activities inside of the public rights of way. But then inside of the animals, where can we be screwing something up for general public who's very innocently doing something else that then we're going to get screamed at because we've crossed the line and jumped into where Susie had a kitten and it had 3 kittens and she wants to give them away and now she can't. She could always take them to a facility, but depending on where they are and what have you, if she can actually get there, kind of where we may run afoul of our populace. And before it actually comes back, I don't mind sitting down and talking. I was going to go do some other research as well. My sister-in-law is a cruelty investigator. Used to work here for the Willamette Humane Society and now is up in Olympia. So I'll be up there next weekend. So I was going to talk to her a bit too and ask some of those kind of questions. So I'll pass along any information that I find.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, any further discussion? The motion on the floor, presented by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Clem. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And I have an announcement of an appointment to the Historic Landmarks Commission. We are appointing David Holton to fill a professional position for a full term which will expire December 31st, 2016. He represents Ward 7, and he is a builder consultant, and I think well known to many of the councilors here on the City Council, has served in various capacities as a volunteer and in our community and related organizations and commissions. So I'm very pleased with that appointment. I have no further business to bring to the council, and we are adjourned.